Good morning. I'm just doing my brain laundering and sorting out the lights from the darks. And after an incident in my garden, I'm changing my strategy. I was on the brink of giving up doing these blogs, but I had a lesson from nature to carry on regardless. Let me just say that I wrote this after some thought, and as usual, I copied it into an email to read here online. In doing so, I was offered an assistance of Google AI, so I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. But although they're my words, they've been rearranged to suit the algorithm. And I quote this: "It seems to me that our current system, often labelled democracy, primarily serves a select few, and some might call elites, rather than the broader population. It appears that political leaders and their parties they represent are often influenced by powerful vested interests. And this can lead to a situation where electoral choices may not result in the significant changes in direction, as different parties might be heading towards similar outcomes, all being at various paces. Many feel that our institutions, and indeed those globally, are facing issues of integrity, because that is something very thin on the ground. And this prompts the question of whether it is time for a fundamental shift, perhaps towards a direct democracy where power resides more directly with the people. The perceived lack of trust in politicians based on past actions suggests that the reform alone may be insufficient, and more radical change, possibly a significant reset, different from both the envisioned by global elites, might be necessary. However, a considerable challenge lies in our human mindset and our tendency towards groupthink. And Sigmund Freud observations about the rationality of individuals versus the irrational of group psychology. Throughout history, humans have formed groups, secured and belonging and adapting to group norms as a deeply ingrained instinct. We all need to be part of a gang. And reflecting on my own experiences, I've often felt detached from these groups, even while participating in them. And it's notable that many of these groups have eventually dissolved and gone away. The large-scale group dynamic that emerged around 2020 was where dissenters faced strong opposition, is a clear example of this phenomenon. And as someone who dissented, I experienced the isolation that followed and the many threats that were made by complete strangers. And while it seems many now are recognising inconsistencies in the prevailing narratives, my only regret from that period is perhaps not having voiced my dissenting views more forcefully. But then again, it's easier to be wise after the event. Now, back to my own words, as these following ones were not allowed, which goes to show you the structure of AI. Never trust AI, because it's full of algorithms that seek out words that are not allowed to be said. And a distinct link to Big Brother watching, my humble opinion. And I'll continue in my own words. Back in the 60s, Harold Wilson said, "A week in politics is a long time." And that statement is completely wrong today, since the invention of the knowledge machine that we all hold in our hands, things have escalated somewhat. A day is a long time in politics, and since the advent of independent bloggers like me, it's come down to an hour. And I think I can safely say that the current political system is greatly flawed, and people are angry, very angry indeed, in fact. No more so than the Russian people right now. And I will leave a link to that conversation between Judge Napolitano and Alastair Crooke in the description to this video under more. And it's a real eye-opener. To what it was about was Alastair Crooke's visit to St. Petersburg earlier this week. If you view the link, please read the comments. There were over 300 positive ones when I watched, and I'm pretty sure the figure has grown exponentially since then. The problem discussed is the glaring ignorance of Trump. He ranted how Putin had lost his mind by bombarding Ukraine with many attacks on civilians, obviously not knowing that Ukraine had been sending hundreds of drones into Moscow in the past few months, and conveniently forgetting that the US is still supplying arms to Ukraine. And also forgetting America's part in the genocide in Gaza by supporting Israel. It's total hypocrisy beyond belief. Now, I could defend Trump by saying that he has a battle going on from within the Senate and the House of Representatives and the neocons, but I won't. What he said in his last rant is both wrong and he is obviously ignorant of current affairs and what is essentially occurring, and quite possibly by design, as he's surrounded by sycophants, just creepy people, yes men. And it all beggars belief coming from the leader of the free world. And I use those three words with biting sarcasm. If you think you're free, you're deluded. Just ask people like Julian Assange, Tommy Robinson, or the people jailed for Facebook or Twitter comments. Crazy. Trump has distanced himself and America from the Ukraine war and thrown Europe to the lions. Don't believe a word of it. Excuse me. Don't believe a word of it. It's all part of a bigger plan by America. They are thousands of miles away and want to remain that way. Britain, France, Germany and a few others are beating the war drums, and believe it or not, America is fully behind them because should they be anyway successful. And Europe is now blatantly being used by the US, and the dangers are mind-boggling. I have no answers, but if the madness of the belligerent countries continue, then there will come a time when, if we're lucky enough, we will have just enough time to take our pants down and kiss our ass goodbye. That's no exaggeration. Because Merz, the German Chancellor, has said he will send US Taurus missiles deep into the heart of Russia. And Russia has responded to strike Germany if one Taurus missile flies into Russia. Have you loosened your trousers yet? Unless, of course, this is all part of the master plan to create fear and a global reset to suit the people who are really in control. Us mere peasants are many, but we lack the leadership we fantasize about. And just maybe there is no one there to save us, simply because those in charge deem us peasants as unworthy, useless consumers, stealing their resources. On a personal note, the past week I've had the pleasure of watching two robins make a nest right outside the window where I sit. And what a beautiful work ethic there is there. Constantly, all day, mating a nest. Sadly, I came to look this morning and the complete nest was on the ground, and it had been attacked by, I don't know, maybe a jay, a magpie, or even a squirrel. Why? The law of the jungle and the survival of the fittest. But seemingly totally pointless. Very much the same as our own world being a jungle. But the robins will carry on regardless and build another nest, and if necessary, another. And they have the natural ability to carry on, head down and plough on, defying the big bullies, and maybe we should do the same. On a final thought, the Roman god Janus is depicted as having one face looking in the past and the other face looking to the future. With Trump, the two faces have far more sinister outlook, beg your pardon. One of a narcissist and the other a fool. And I have just 4 words from ancient law, even more relevant today, and that is hubris, atist, nemesis, and taisis. And they all go together hand in hand. And I'll leave a link to that in comments. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.